Well, it's Saturday morning. I'm getting ready to go on a test drive of a car that I recently bought, and we do that to make sure these cars are fully sorted out. You got to drive them. You've got to go through the gears. You've got to log the miles. You've got to go on different types of roads, stop and go, highway, all that to really make sure you know where the car is. And so that's the point of this now second drive of this car that I bought in a city where the traffic was heavy when I test drove it and really couldn't put it through its paces. So I'll do that today. Behind me, you can see, well, 4 really cool cars. 3 of the cars are K-code hypos, factory K-code hypos. I love those cars. And the 4th is a very rare Firebird convertible HO. Very cool car too, triple black. So these K-codes are really kind of a specialty of my son and I. If you're familiar with our videos, you've seen a lot of K-codes come and go through our hands. If you got a K-code you want to sell, or even possibly do a consignment. We rarely do consignments, but if it's the type car that meets our criteria, we'll discuss it with you. And yeah, we love K-codes, and we do some S-codes also, but K-codes probably and S-codes are what we're known best for. So the car I'm going to test drive is not one of these 3 or 4. It's this Rangoon Red pre-GT you see in the back. And so that's an early 65 with all the GT performance options, but no GT callouts or design elements, fog lamps, dual trumpets coming through the rear, or emblems going down, emblems on the side or striping, because the GT package didn't come out till April 65, some months later. So a very special car, hard to find, very hard to find, one of the hardest to find. And that's the grandpa of all fastbacks, the 65. And so this is a very, very nice car, older restoration, but it was a super good car. You could tell before it was restored, and that's what's very important. So we're going to go on a test drive. If you'd like to come on a test drive with me, come along. That's what we're doing this morning. And okay, so before we go on the test drive, you probably would like a better look at these K-codes. This one is a ultra rare special order color sapphire blue. Came from the factory, documented. It's a factory sapphire blue, which is a Shelby color. That you don't see this color typically on anything other than a Shelby. It really looks good. I wish they'd have painted a lot more of them that color. The other 2 are springtime yellow K-codes. The one right behind the sapphire blue car is also a GT. Sapphire blue car is a GT. And the other K-code against the wall is a non-GT. And the sapphire blue car is an automatic, and the other 2 are manuals. And they're all factory hypos. Yeah, I love hypos. But so this is what we're going to drive today. And it is the pre-GT. And it's really a good looking car. It's got some day 2 aftermarket performance upgrades, but other than that, it's a very original car and a very hard to find car. Runs good, drove really good in the first test drive, but we'll put another 20-25 miles on it today and then probably do it once more before we sign off on this car. But I believe the car is a very good car mechanically. Cosmetically, you can see it's a super nice car. It benefited from an older restoration, and it wasn't cheap. It was a bare metal respray and brand new interior and a complete mechanical rebuild. So it's a good one. Well, let's go on. Well, we'll look at it in a little bit more detail here, and then we'll go on that test drive. Okay, well, you can see some of the day 2 upgrades. We'll actually de-hot rod this engine bay and get it closer to the factory presentation. And there's nothing inherently wrong with any of these things that were done to the car. In fact, there's probably some benefits to some of them. But for the way our new owner that will ultimately end up with this car will use this car, these type of updates, the electric fan, the aftermarket radiator that looks like anything but stock, braided hoses, yada yada. Some of these little details will take the car a long way by just taking it back to a stock look. That's what we prefer largely, and we'll take care of that. So the interior, there's almost nothing to do. It's a very nice restored interior. By the way, you see the fire extinguisher in the back. I put that in there because I don't test drive these cars. Until I get my confidence way up, I don't go anywhere without a fire extinguisher. And then I have a little temp gun I don't know that the temperature gauge is accurate. I don't know that it's not, but I'll have a laser temp gun to check, and then I'll know. So you've got an air-conditioned 4-speed car. It's also a disc brake car. It's also a quick steering car. It's got the GT suspension, everything that a GT would have, except for the dual exhaust system running out the rear. You know, it's effectively a GT, pre-GT, before there was a GT. Really cool car. Rangoon red. It's got a little bit of an orange tint to it. I like it. I think it's a good looking color. It's definitely a very classic Mustang color, Rangoon red. Yeah, it's a good looking car. The wheels, we'll go back with style steel wheels, which would have been an optional wheel in '65 for this car. And we'll take this torque thrust type wheel off of it and just get a little more stock presentation. Because the car is so original and because it's a rare car in that it's a pre-GT, rare car as built, you know, I think it best presents closer to stock than not. And there's nothing wrong with some safety upgrades, some comfort upgrades, and performance upgrades. And we may even do the LED lights on this car for safety and louder horns. And we might even add the GT front running lights, fog lights, and the GT exhaust in the rear. Now that's not correct to the car because they didn't exist, but it's a very kosher, copacetic upgrade that's very acceptable. And oh my gosh, I think they're the two nicest design elements for the '65 and '66. And given that this car is a pre-GT, it just puts it in the sweet spot. And it's reversible, but I don't think anybody ever would. Okay, there it is, the pre-GT. Well, let's hop in it and let's go for that test drive. Okay, we'll give it a little gas. Whoa. She runs. Okay, so we're almost out of the neighborhood. Let's take a look at our gauges here. We've got fuel. That's good. We got extreme oil pressure. It's still cold. That might drop a little bit. They usually do. Let's see. Temperature. We're up on temperature finally, and we're going to go give it a little run and let you feel the car at speed. Okay, here we go. I love that sound. That's the sound of a healthy little 289. We've got a healthy little 289 right here. These cars are so much fun. Great power to weight ratio. That's why Carroll Shelby used the 65, 66 in his racing. Those cars dominated B-Class Sports Car Club of America racing. Woohoo! She runs. Absolutely no surprise whatsoever. I didn't get to test drive this car on the highway when I was buying it. And I knew it'd be a good car and it would run good in the little neighborhood driving that I did, but of course you can't open them up when you're in the neighborhood, so you can only just guess. This is a manual steering car. Most of them are. And I actually prefer manual steering for my personal car, but I know some people need power steering or prefer it for whatever reason. Nice. Happy little 289 in this car for sure. So back to the power steering, non-power steering thing. So the factory power steering, one of the issues I have with it, it's pretty primitive. There's a lot going on down there, a lot of components involved, and they tend to leak 90% of the time. And there's a little less road feel all the time with power steering. But again, I'm not against power steering. I'm just not a big fan. Now the Borkson power steering update is quite nice. It's not without its cost. It costs money, but it does still. It's a better power steering system by far than the factory power steering system for a lot of reasons. I recommend it. This car is mechanically brilliant. I mean, it's fantastic. This is as much power as you would really want in one of these little cars in stock form, and by stock form I mean suspension-wise and brake-wise, because this car's got a lot of power, and I love it. I gotta admit it. I love these little 289 cars when they have the little happy 289 that's built right, and this one absolutely is. That's a lot of power. It's a lot of power in that little motor. Love it. Whoever ends up with this car is going to have an absolute blast. No doubt about it. That's what you want in your Mustang. That's a lot of fun. Okay, so my test drive's over, and it is a great car. It runs really, really good. Did I find anything? Oh yeah, I did. I found several things. Everything that can be taken care of quite easily, but does need to be addressed. It's the type of stuff that owners kind of put up with, get used to, or don't know what to do about, and we'll take care of it. Number one, the accelerator stuck. One of the points when I accelerated hard, the accelerator stuck. A little scary. Got it unstuck, no problem, but it did stick. The clutch spring, return spring, is not good. Clutch comes up, it releases, but the clutch, the pedal needs to come up a little bit higher to its nesting position. So we'll take care of that. Air's not blowing cold, and I did know that. And I suspected the clutch spring wasn't good, but now I know that. Everything else seems to be working really well. Yeah, great car. So a few tweaks are necessary, and this is why we test drive our cars on multiple occasions, to try to identify anything that would that needs to be corrected before the car gets shipped to a new owner, and that's what we'll do to this car. That's just some of the things we'll do. We'll do paint enhancement that will, they call it paint correction. Tyler and I call it paint enhancement, but it'll dramatically improve this paint job. What once was a super nice paint job still is a great paint job. We're going to bring it back to the original luster, maybe even better than the original luster. Tyler is a master paint technician, and yeah, that'll be real impressive. We'll add style steel wheels. We've got a list of things we're going to do, little tweaks to enhance the car. It's all said and done, this car will be at a consistent level, when you open the hood, when you look in the interior, when you walk around and look at the paint and body, it'll present consistently as a very high quality show driver. So certainly you could show it, but it's made to drive and be driven, and it's going to please somebody quite a bit. She idles beautifully. She pulls good and strong. It's everything a guy could want in a, I'll call it a performance Mustang, because it is. It's a GT, remember, before there was a GT. So it's the same exact experience, maybe a little better. It's probably built closer to K-Code specs with the cam, and it's got aluminum heads also. So yeah, it's a good performer. The new owner will be deeply in love with this car. So that's what we do. That's what we're doing today, is test driving it, getting more familiar with it, trying to get to the point that we feel comfortable that it's ready to ship for good on-demand, reliable enjoyment. Well, thanks for coming along on the test drive. Hope you enjoyed it.